Talks truth, live from the booth, always miss 100 proof. Should bring it to you words of encouragement with the funny twist that features soul like it's nourishment. While you're listening, I hope you catch a feeling, cause Tina talks truth about hope, joy, and healing. Tina talks truth.
I'm a superhero. Not really. I'm just Tina Levine with Tina Talks Truth Show. So welcome. Thank you for being here. If I had to choose a superhero, first of all, I would say God, and then I would say Jesus, and then I would say Niki Cross. Yes, my special guest today. Niki Cross is a superhero because she uses her superhero strength to help other people heal. It is a pretty amazing story. I'm so excited to introduce all of you. Get on your feet, put your hands together for my special guest, Niki Cross.
Hi, Tina. Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? It's always good to see you.
I am so excited to have you.
It's good to be here. Amazing show.
Well, thank you. And you're amazing.
Well, I want to correct you on one thing. I am not a superhero. I am just the instrument. You know, I was thinking about when you were talking about superheroes. And, you know, I loved Batman and I loved Superman and all of those. But the one real superhero is Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. Because the difference between him and those superheroes is that he not only saves you, he stays with you, and he keeps you eternally.
Amen.
The other ones just fly away.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
yeah.
You know, and I am certainly not a superhero. I'm just the instrument, not here to make my mark, but to be the instrument to make his mark.
Absolutely.
So.
It's his story.
It's his story. That's right. That's right.
But, you know, I love you as Niki, my spiritual sister.
Same here.
I mean, you're an incredible singer. Oh. And this book, let me tell you, like Daddy used to say, this book is incredible. It's going to help so many hearts heal. But this whole book is just packed full of his sayings. Can you share your favorite? I know there's probably a lot of them, but share with us one of your favorite sayings that your dad used to say.
I guess absolutely one of my favorite is that, you know, when you're in ministry, you do get tired. Even Jesus got weary. And one of the things that Daddy used to say is, some people are like a blister. They don't show up till the hard work's done. You know, it's true. You know, you get out there and I'm going to save souls for Jesus and I'm going to make an impact. And, you know, you pray, God, use me, use me, use me. And then, you know, 6 months to a year later, I feel so used. You know, well, you got what you prayed for.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's one of my favorites. And he had many more that I'm sure will pop in my mind along the way.
Oh, yes. Well, and that's what I love about you. You know, I could call Niki, it could be about anything. And, you know, there's so much traffic. I'll call Mama Niki, and Niki will be like, you know, Daddy used to say, and it would be the perfect quote. And then you always follow up with Bible scripture. Yeah. And I'm like, I love this woman. Like, I just want to put her in my pocket and keep her with me all day long. You just have the best. You are definitely an instrument, and you are a willing vessel, and God uses you in mighty, mighty ways. Can you share with our audience the ways that he uses you?
Well, you know, a lot of people call me an expert in human trafficking because at 15 I was abducted, kidnapped, taken out of state, chained in an attic, brutalized for almost a year. And it took about 20 years for me to really, you know, you don't walk out of a situation like that and harps and violins play and you're suddenly okay. Mm. You have to heal. And there's even been things in the last couple years that have been very, very traumatic in my life. And, you know, one of those nuggets of the Holy Spirit that kind of fell upon me today was there's things that I'm now starting to share about that experience that I didn't feel comfortable sharing before. One of the incidents was when I was in that attic, they found out that I was pregnant. And they took me down to the kitchen and put me on a table, and I had a kitchen table abortion being held down with no anesthesia. And I thought to myself, Lord, people will think horrible. And the Lord said, no, this just shows that you're healing and that you're willing to be even more transparent and to share even more, because there's somebody out there in this world that has had something happen to them, if not that, something similar. And they're thinking, I'm the only one that's ever suffered like that or been through this. And, I was that person that when I found Christ, I would sit in churches and I would hear people say, and I found Jesus and everything, it just fell into place. Everything was wonderful. And I would sit there and say, well, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Because it doesn't work that way. Yes, he healed my soul, but it was up to me to change the stinking thinking and to walk in the one of Daddy's things used to be, if you walk in the Spirit, you won't run into trouble.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and young Christian, I read the Bible, I used it like a menu. Well, this part I can live, this part I can live. Yeah, I really don't want to turn away from that. It's when you completely submit. There's a scripture. People always say, resist the devil and he'll have to flee. But they forget the first part. Submit yourself to God, then resist the devil, and he will flee.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that surrendering part is just so crucial. You know what my daddy used to say? Nothing good happens after midnight.
Yeah, I heard that one too. He must have known my daddy.
Yes. So you have just been working in a mighty, mighty way with so many, not only lawmakers, law decision makers, legislation, and just all, but also with victims. Can you share with us what are some of the tasks, some of the things that you're doing to help victims?
Well, I started this ministry that God ordained. He called me, and it's so funny because I used to be in music, and that was my cathartic way of, I could just forget the stuff in my head. This was before I'd found the Lord. And I always felt, okay, as long as I'm on the stage, I'm good. But I'd walk away and it was same miserable Niki. And then one day the Lord really spoke to my heart. He said, you went through that for a reason. And, you want another Daddy quote. Daddy used to say, a good soldier's always fighting or he's learning how to. And I was at church on a Sunday night, and this is how S.T.A.A.R ministry began. I heard two ladies on the sidewalk talking not very kindly about a little 15-year-old girl who my daughter had gone to school with. And they were talking about how she was prostituting herself, that the mother had thrown her out because she had accused the stepfather of raping her and she didn't believe her. And so now, to support herself, she was going up and down this trailer park and selling herself. The truth of the matter was there was a man who was selling her.
Yeah.
And, I walked away from there, and on the way home, I told my daughter, I said, let's see if we can find Elle. I don't like to disclose names for confidentiality reasons. And we did eventually find her. I'm giving you the edited version. We took her home, which is something, I no longer do, is you don't take them to your home, but especially now that there are safe houses and organizations that work with that kind of care. But I was able to talk to her, and the Lord spoke to me that day that, you thought I was calling you to be a star. I want you to be a S.T.A.A.R, S.T.A.A.R, Stop the Abuse and Rescue. And, you know, I've not looked back. That was 27 years ago. And we didn't call it human trafficking back then. And a lot of people will, you know, and I hate labels, but people will put me in the human trafficking category, which I guess for identification you have to have certain titles and labels and that sort of thing. But, you know, I've always felt this was about restoration, you know. You know, my daddy taught me to love people, everybody from cowboy boots to business suits. It didn't matter. You know, love everyone. I grew up during the 60s, during the racial tension. And my father was always fair to the workers, no matter what their color of their skin. And my mother made a not so nice remark one night, and the only time I ever heard my father really raise his voice was he said, "Let me tell you something. There is one race, and it's called the human race." And so a lot of my integrity, you know, all of my integrity comes from God, but I think he used Daddy to sow a lot of seeds with that.
Absolutely.
So as far as what I do, you know, I'm bouncing all over the place, but it grew from mentoring the women to giving wraparound services, getting them to doctors, working with law enforcement when needed to, you know, help them get through the process of going to court, getting their justice. We get them to doctors, we get them to dentists. You know, we just love on them and do the best we can. We had a house. It was the first house in Pinellas County, but we lost funding and it had to close. But you know what? I at the time I was so angry, but God lets things happen for reasons. And I know now that reason is God is wanting to send me into the world to share His word, to share about that healing, to share that if it can happen to a little girl who grew up in a Christian home, it can happen to anybody. There is no family who cannot be affected by it. So whether it be abuse, whether it be incest, or whether it be full-blown human trafficking. Because at the end of the day, it's still hurt.
Yes.
It's still hurt. And, you know, the evil that got hold of me is the same evil from back then. It's just changed the window dressing.
Exactly.
That's it.
What I love about you is that you use your voice not only to advocate and work with the victims and also collaborate with other survivors and just do a phenomenal job in the community, in churches and agencies, corporate offices, all that, conferences. You speak all over the place in the United States, but also you use your voice to sing. Tell us about the Free video and the song Free.
Well, free kind of says it all, because not only am I free from the shackle that was around my ankle and the chain, you know, it was pretty. There's no other word for it. It was the most inhumane surroundings you could ask for. You know, there was a bucket that we three had to use for toilets, and our chains only went as far as where that bucket was. We didn't get baths, we got hosed down. But by the grace of God, someone helped me to escape. A lovely, lovely person named Chrissy and a guy named Buster, who ironically you helped me track down with another dear friend, Dottie Groover Skipper. And you know, I said, I don't want any Christmas gifts. All I want to do is to find Chrissy. And, you know, here comes Tina. So you need to be wearing that superhero cape.
Oh, no. It's just because I'm nosy. I used my nosy skills to find someone.
Keep being nosy, Armadillo. Keep being nosy.
Okay, so you know what? We're going to take a quick break, Niki. Stay tuned because when you come back, you're going to actually be able to listen and watch Niki's video free. So stay tuned.
We're holding on for something more, and this is what we came here for. You gotta learn to be faithful. You gotta learn. She's daddy's girl, he's her world. She's only 9 years old. Amazing grace, a freckled face, and bedtime stories told. And then come those secret lies, and no one knows why she cries. No one knows. Now 15, she's got a dream and wants to sing her song. She meets a man who says she can, but something just feels wrong. And then come those brutal hands, blackened eyes and harsh demands. Free, I want to be free. Invisible handcuffs, portable prisons. Please, God, set me free. Well, she's got a plan, bottle in her hand. She wants to end it all. She never smiles, it's been a while, and it's time to take that fall. Oh, but then comes another man. He's the one with the nail-scarred hands. Well, he talks of love and things above, and tells her she's okay. No more deceit, she can believe she's finally found her way. Still she tells him about her loss. He said love, not nails, held me to that cross. And you are free, you're free, so free. I'm so glad to be free. Invisible handcuffs and portable prisons will never hold me. Yeah. Thank God I will never hold me. No, 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 I am free.
Tina Talks Truth, live from the booth, always this 100 proof. She'll bring it to you words of encouragement with the funny twist that features soul like
Welcome back to the Tina Talks Truth Show with my special guest, Niki Cross. Thank you for coming back. And Niki, you actually segued into this, and you actually brought up Chrissy and Buster. Can you just share with us what that rescue looked like?
Okay, yeah, it was God ordained. There's no doubt about it. You know, I now recognize that one of the men who worked in the house, you know, he never assaulted us. The other men did. But this guy, John, he never assaulted us. He was basically being labor trafficked because he was so addicted to heroin. And not only were they selling the three of us, the teenagers, it was myself, a girl a little older than me, and her brother who was deaf. But John, he would, when they'd let us eat, he would come in and he'd kind of sling the plates across the floor. And it looked and tasted like dog food, and pretty sure it was dog food because, you know, that's about all we were worth to them. And I would beg him, John, please, just leave my shack, because he had to go around and check the chains. And I'd say, please, 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 leave it unlocked, leave it unlocked. Nobody will ever know it was you. And, you know, at first he would say, you've lost your mind, they will kill me. And of course there was more expletives than that. And, you know, after being there for almost a year and noticing that, you know, I didn't just go limp. I always, you know, kept fighting because I just, you know, there were times that I would have to just literally give up because I was overpowered. And I will get to the rescue, but there was one beating that was so bad. It was during the day, and I woke up, and it was nighttime. And I asked Jenny, the girl that was in the attic with me, I said, my head hurts so bad, and I had blood running down my ears and out my nose. My lip was busted. And I said, how many hours have I been knocked out? And she said, girl, you've been out for days, but the men kept coming. And so I don't know if it was that incident. I don't know if it was my tenacity of I want to go, and I'm not going to stop until somehow I get out of here. John, I think, you know, I think he was being convicted. You know, even though I was not born again, I was praying, you know, God, please get me out of here. God, get me out of here. John knew a guy who knew Buster. And he told him, he said, look, he said, I want you to help me out with something. He said, I'm trying to get this girl down to this bar. And he said, can you and this, whoever you can get to help, you know, get her out of there. If I can get her out of the bar, will you get her away? So John told Daryl, who was my abductor, he said, you know, let's dress her up real pretty. Let her take a real shower, which, you know, they turned on cold water. I didn't even have the luxury of hot water to wash my hair. Threw me this old Ziploc container of dirty, used makeup and this horrible dress, you know, well, we're talking about the 70s, and as bad as fashion was then, this was real bad fashion. They took me down to this bar. The idea was they were going to park the van in the alleyway back behind. Daryl was going to go around and get customers, if you will. And John was to sit there at the table with me, and then when he had his customers lined up, we were to go back to the van, and John would collect the money as they came and went out of the van. And, you know, a lot of people would say, you know, you're sitting in an open bar, you don't have the chain on anymore, why don't you scream? Why don't you get up and run? Why don't you do anything? And that's, people so need to be educated about PTSD and Stockholm Syndrome, and that's not just with trafficking survivors, that's with domestic abuse survivors. You know, I've heard, you know, law enforcement say they must like it, they keep going back for it. It's not that simple. You know, I didn't have anything keeping me from moving except fear. And I had been broken down so hard by this point. I think if I'd stayed longer, I probably would have just given in, just given in. But he was walking around the room and he came back. I said to him, I said, before we do, and he was bragging about, he said, man, we're going to make triple money what we make at the house. And I said, I need to use the restroom. And he was very, very inebriated. He was very high, you know. He stayed high a lot. In fact, when any of us would give him any problems, they'd hold us down and inject us with drugs, you know, just to knock us out so that people could do whatever they wanted to do to us. And I don't know why that particular moment seemed to enrage him so much, but at the time I had very long hair. I was a tiny little girl. You know, I was only 15. And, you know, he grabbed my hair, he pulls his knife out of his pocket, and he said, I'm going to do what I should have done when I first met you. I knew you were trouble, I knew you were hard-headed. He said, I'm going to cut your throat, throw you in the dumpster out back, and just be done. I'll find somebody that'll work better. And he started dragging me down the hall. The bathroom was on that hallway. And at that time, two women came out of the bathroom and they started a confrontation with Daryl. The knife slipped out of his hand. He lost his grip on me. The one thing that was in my mind was, I am not going out that back door, so I'm going to have to go out the front door. Not even putting, you know, John's words in my mind. And when I stepped out the door, I'm standing there with shirt ripped, my neck bleeding, and I hear this male voice say, are you Niki? You need to come on, we got to go. And I just stood there. And this woman gets out of the truck and she walks me over to the truck. And I will never forget, as long as I live, White Castle napkins. They're big in Ohio.
Yes, yeah.
And they were using the stack to, you know. And Buster said, do you think you should go to the hospital? And I said, no, that'll be the first place they look for me. So we went to who we now know is Chrissy's house. And she was very brave because she took on her whole family. They said, we don't need this at our doorstep. And they said, you know, we don't want it. And she said, they'll kill her. They'll kill her. You don't understand, these people will kill her. So in the beginning, they weren't as welcoming. Chrissy would share her plate of food with me so that her mom wouldn't get upset, because they were not very wealthy at all. I mean, the mom was on food stamps with 7 kids. And you're bringing in another child, 8 mouths to feed. But eventually the mother warmed up to me, and so I stayed there. Buster, bless him, he would drive through all the bus stations, and you know, and when it got to the point where Daryl had been arrested for, he was under investigation for a woman missing from Columbus, Georgia, which is where he got me. 'Cause
Okay.
I had run away, and that's where I ended up. And he was also under investigation for $40,000 worth of fraud because I'm telling my age now, but back then to do paychecks, they had this old paymaster thing that you pulled the lever and it stamped whatever the amount was. Somehow he had gotten one, he had stole one, and now I know why when he was grooming me, he was, buying all the nice coats and all the nice boots and jeans and makeup and everything I want, eating in nice restaurants. Now I understand that.
Yeah.
At that time, I thought, oh, this guy loves me. He's Brad Pitt and Marky Mark all together, So they took me there, and when he was being investigated, I don't know what was going on with the other two guys. I don't know if they bolted. I don't know if they said, the heck with this, we're not going down for him. We got the nerve up to call a policeman, and all Chrissy said to him, I said, you can't tell him I ran away. You can't tell him what happened. And she said, this girl has family in North Carolina, and a bad guy did some really bad things to her, and she's scared, and she wants to go home. And of course, he tried to get me to talk about it, and there was no way. As a lot of people who work in this, this ministry know that a lot of times the victims don't want to talk, out of shame, out of fear. And but the one thing I remember about that policeman was that he never pushed me. And when he got to the bus station, he sat with me, got my ticket. My mother had wired some money. I got my ticket. And he went up to the bus driver when the bus came in. He said, she sits on the front seat. No one sits with her. When she changes buses, she sits on the front seat. No one sits with her. And if I find out different when she gets home and calls me, somebody's going to hear from me. And that's exactly how it happened. If somebody would try to sit down, he'd say, no, you can't sit with her. You need to go back to the next seat. So, and when I got off the bus in my hometown, my mother and father were standing there waiting for me. And I can't tell you the emotions. Because the thing is you're not the same person that left.
No.
And as much as you want it to be, it will never be.
Yeah.
I hear people say all the time when you go through that you can be so completely healed. The healing is continuous.
Absolutely.
It is continuous.
Yeah.
And, I've grabbed hold of that my healing will always be continuous.
Yeah. And you know what? I think part of that healing process is for you to be able to thank your rescuer. How about you look in that camera right there, and if you could say something to Chrissy, because I'm hoping she'll watch the
She will
show.
watch it.
So if you could look at that camera and just say something to Chrissy right now.
Well, before I do that, I do want to say that, Buster passed away. I never got the opportunity to thank him. But Chrissy, you know how much you mean to me. You know how much I love you. You were a part of something that people back then just didn't do. They didn't get involved. They didn't care. Oh, no! Oh my God, it's Chrissy! Please, no! Oh my gosh!
Only for you.
I told you I'm nosy, Niki. I can find people.
Only for you.
Oh my gosh.
Been a while, huh?
It's been 43 years.
Come, no, please, please.
Please.
See, this is a hero. This is a hero. Oh my gosh,
I
Chrissy,
know.
please
She
come
is a
sit with me.
superhero. She's a superhero. She's going to stay off camera.
Okay.
For her own
This-
safety, we're
this-
going to keep her off camera.
Well, it's about you, honey, and what you do, not about me.
I'm watching this woman wave at me,
I'm like, when is it going to hit her?
and I'm like, hi, lady, but I'm trying to talk to my sweetheart, my rescuer, my friend. And then I'd look up and it's Chrissy. Oh, my word. I mean, this is totally not how I expected it to be. I wanted to present you with flowers and balloons and...
Why?
She's
I'm
so
nothing.
not like that.
But that's the thing.
I know.
That's the thing.
I know. She's so very special and humble. And she looks
It's
at
actually
you.
the thing. I'm not special. I'm just a human being that did the right thing at the right time. That's all.
Now I know why I needed tissues.
I know.
Oh, Chrissy. Chrissy.
I didn't do this by myself. Dottie and Donna actually paid for Chrissy's flight and hotel, and we worked together to bring her here. Because I know how important this is for your healing, Niki, and this has been a work in progress for 2 months.
Goodness gracious. 43 years I have not looked at that beautiful face.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this woman, she went beyond the realms.
She did.
Of, yes, you did. Yes, you
And,
did.
she literally just said that, because I've talked to her, I picked her up last night from the airport and all that, and she's so humble, and she just says, I did what I had to do to save a life, and so she went in the truck with Buster that night, and she said she looked in your eyes and knew, like, they had to rescue you.
And I'm sitting here talking about, I'm sure she'd be on the phone if they called her.
You're like, I just talked to her last night. I'm like, I know, because she's in my car.
And what's crazy is, some of the detectives say, Niki, you've got such great spidey senses. Well, they kind of failed me this time.
Well, I want to thank all the crew, too, because we had her out. We had her mic'd up before you got here. And
Oh, my goodness.
so this part of your healing process is going to begin, and you get to have a wonderful weekend with Chrissy.
Yes.
And just have a great
And to thank her and thank her and thank her and thank her, because I'll tell you this.
No thanks needed.
If it were not, first of all, for my Lord and Savior, but you and Buster, there would, no, you and Buster, there would be no me. There would be thousands of women who never heard that someone else had been through what I've been through, and that they could get healing too. Without you and what you did that night, putting yourself on the line, I can hardly talk, and that's bad for me because I'm a But without you, there would be no daughter, no granddaughters, no S.T.A.R. ministry, no 27 years of pulling women from horrible, horrible places.
And without Buster, it wouldn't have happened either.
It was team effort.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
Oh, I'm in shock. I just so wish you'd sit with me and let me hug you.
Well, you'll get to hug her afterwards.
I'm not going to let her go.
I know. I know.
it's sad Buster didn't get to know.
He's being honored.
Oh, yes.
So,
He's being honored.
Yes, he is in heaven.
He was a sweet soul. He was a sweet soul. And, I will say this, that Buster probably was one of the first pieces of helping restore faith in men, because he never, ever tried to take advantage of any woman that I'm aware of, much less me. You know, he could have very easily said, yeah, I'll get her, got me in the truck and you know, gone off to whatever. But that wasn't his character.
Yeah.
Buster was honorable, truthful. He wasn't perfect. None of us are perfect. But Chrissy, I mean, she just put her wing around me, and she was a mama hen.
Shared a bed with you.
She shared her bed with me. She shared her plate of food. You probably heard me say that so many times. You know, I mean, everything I needed, you know, what was hers was mine. Yeah. And she never made me feel like I was, oh my goodness, she never made me feel like I was obliged or that I owed. But I do owe her so much. I owe her so much.
There's nothing you did that was wrong.
No, but I wouldn't be here if things hadn't been orchestrated. And I still
None
say
of that was your fault.
no, it wasn't my fault. And you know, and that's one thing I want people that are hurting out there to know, is that if you're being abused, if you're being hurt, if people are telling you to do things that you don't want to do, if you feel there's no hope, if you think you need a way out, but you don't know where to go, there are many organizations to reach out. Type in human trafficking, type in domestic abuse. We have many organizations sitting in our our audience today that could help you. But please, please, please tell someone until someone listens.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Stay right there. We're going to have just a great, great time to be continued. So I want to thank you all so much for being here at the Tina Talks Truth Show. And I'm Tina Levine. And once again, the truth is, there is hope. Thank you.
I love you.